Okay, so getting back to CSS, this is Chapter 3, Part 2, Slide 10, I believe. So yeah, this CSS has a lot of different possible properties to be able to set, and depending on the element you're working with, it can be some more than others even, but even the basic ones have tons and tons and tons of possible options. Okay, so this gives you just a list of a few very common properties that are pretty universal to most all elements. Background color, font, stuff, and you can't just specify, Times New Roman bold, size 12. You actually had to specify it individually, typically speaking, and that's we'll get into that. Line height, things like that. Width. Text decoration, that's a weird one. But those are pretty common ones. So talking about color, we need to actually get back into this, and I couldn't remember if we're doing it in this chapter or next chapter, but here we go. Colors on web pages. Now it looks a little bit confusing. You've probably seen these before. They're actually really easy to understand, especially if you've taken any sort of computer science class and you understand what hexadecimal values are. Okay, so this right here is a way of specifying a color. There are basically 3 numbers involved with this. The pound tells the web page that you're going to specify this as a color. I don't know why by pound, or number sign, if you will. Please don't say it's a hashtag. It's not a hashtag. That's a Twitter thing or whatever. And we're talking computer science here. So computer scientists like to call this a pound. I'll call it a number sign too. But anyway, so that specifies that the rest of this stuff to follow is a color. And then there are 3 numbers, 3 groups. So 2 letters, 2 letters, 2 layers. And these layers range from 000 to FFF. And if you know anything about hexadecimal, you can basically combine count from 0 to 255 from 0 to FF. This one gives us FF as the highest, so that's 255 for red, 0 for green, and 0 for blue. So RGB, red, green, blue, and that's the order. So green would be, to specify purely green, is 0, FF, and then 0, 0. And then for blue, 0, 0, 0, 0, and FF. So that says this is 255 in place of blue. So you had to kind of group these in pairs, if you will. Okay, black is all zeros, so 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. White is FF, FF, FF. So all things combined. So, and then we can talk a lot about the difference. So there's a lot of different color theories and all that stuff. If you take a design class, a true design class, you will actually very much talk about, or you should definitely talk about additive versus subtractive and all these different color schemes. We will actually talk a little bit more about different ways of specifying colors other than hexadecimal, but this gives us a very good start. And then gray is CC, CC, CC. The gray could also be, let's see, 999999. That would be a darker gray. 55555555, or sorry, 555555. That would be a even darker gray. And the closer you get to F, it gets closer to white. So, and I should say that when in hexadecimal, the reason why we use hexadecimal is for various reasons, but you count from 0 to 16, but we don't have 16 numbers, so we use A, B, C, D. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F, then 2, 0, 2, 1. Again, I'm not expecting you to remember all that, but you should definitely be able to look at a color and kind of understand what the components are. So basically, CC is somewhere close to probably 200. I don't know off the top of my head. FF is definitely 255. So this gives you another set of colors here. So if you look at these kind of color wheels here, this gives us, from red to white on this palette scheme. And you could, with this combination, with these three numbers system, you can combine it to get up to, I think, 16 million colors or something like that. It's a ridiculously large number of colors. anyway, three hex values is all we have to worry about. Again, that's green, this is gray, this would be blue, this would be red. You can just see, besides the colors, besides it being designated by the actual color, it is actually easy to specify. You can there's a zillion different converters online for getting the exact color or picking your exact color, and we'll talk about these more and more. You can get a whole color palette off of various colors. You can go to paint supply stores and get the actual web version of their color, the hex value of their color. But this gives you this is a color safe chart or safe color chart where all these colors are used on many web pages, but it's not limited to. It used to be that we had to be very careful about what colors we picked because the screens couldn't be able to display more than 16 or even 256 colors. Nowadays, most screens, the assumption is even your mobile devices can display millions of colors, so we don't have to worry about being color safe anymore as such. But there is that. When you're picking colors, I should mention this. You want to keep in mind that there's different color schemes, and this more goes to the design and not the technical aspect of designing a web page. So this is this monochromatic page. This gives you some different options for color picking. I'll go over these at the end of the chapter. I will pop open some of these pages and we can kind of see these on the next section or the section after that, on the last section of this lecture. But yeah, you can pick your own color, and the nice thing about some of these pages is they kind of give you a whole palette of colors, and you can like say the text is this color and the background is that color and the other text is this color, and you can use your images and select it from these things. You want to be very careful about your color scheme and make sure you do a good color scheme. You want to also make sure you have good contrast and not crazy colors, like as I was saying earlier, yellow background and blue foreground for the text is pretty hideous. I think that's kind of generally universally accepted. There's a lot of tools out there to help you pick out a good color scheme, and this again goes to the design aspect, but when you're designing web pages, design is important. Don't minimize it. Anyway, so when you do color, okay, with CSS, we need to basically, if I'm doing it, let's just talk inline for the moment, okay, I could specify an H1 heading 1 and say the color is FF0000, okay? And if I just use the style attribute, so style equals quote, and notice there's no spaces here, okay? We can actually just put right in line to the web page that heading 1 is, that this heading 1 will be red. Now the next heading 1 won't necessarily be red because this only applies to this area right here within this element, and this is the way of doing it in line. Okay, it's very similar to what you were doing with the external and embedded, but it's subtly different, and it's a one-time thing typically, or if you need to do it multiple times, you'll have to do it explicitly multiple times, literally in page. Also notice that the book occasionally will use the examples of the with the color schemes and the letters in lowercase. Please put your letters in uppercase. It's just a style thing. It won't make a difference. It'll technically work, but it's aesthetically more appropriate to keep it in uppercase because it's hex numbers. Hex numbers are implicitly uppercase. It just, as a computer scientist, it just bugs me. Pet peeve. So please make sure you keep your colors in uppercase. But again, you can do this in line. I don't recommend doing this because, as I said, if you have another H1 down here, you have to do it again and again. If you want to change it to be all blue, you have to explicitly go and change it to all blue. Therein lies the advantages to doing it embedded or external, especially. Okay. So this is another example. So I'm going to say that the text is red, but the color is red, but the background color is gray. Okay, and this is just one form of gray. There's lots of shades. you know, lots of different colors of gray and everything. Notice that it's separated by the semicolon like we did, and there's no space here. Color, colon, you could put a space here. I don't think it will make any difference, but there's a nice space width here. It's kind of nice to group it together, but sometimes you'll put a little space there. But notice there's no quotes. That's the big one, because you have this within a quote of the style attribute. So H1 style equals quote, and then the whole kit and caboodle. It's all put together right there. You know, done. Diddy done right there. Simple. Okay, so you can specify multiple attributes. Again, when you're doing inline, it gets a little bit tedious, and it distracts from your your HTML code, from it being aesthetically appealing and easy to read. The web browser will be fine with it. Okay, but it's easier to start with internal and then move to embedded and external as we get going. But you definitely need to know the difference. Okay, so when you see something like this, style equals blah blah blah, you know immediately, and this is an exam question, you know immediately it is a internal internal CSS. Okay, style equals quote blah, whatever it is. When you see the style equals, that's the only time you use the word style with anything having to do with CSS. Okay. So style equals this, that is internal. When you see it, I'm sorry, that's not the only time you use style. When you see the style tag, this goes up in the header area of the web of each individual web page, and you specify it for the whole page. So unlike inline, I'm sorry, not internal, not unlike inline, you with inline, you had to specify each H1. If you want all H1s to be the style, you have to specify them individually, literally and explicitly. With the embedded, you just do it once at the top of each page, and you put the style area, style element within the header. Okay, I'm sorry, within head. Okay, let's just show you how that's done. Okay, well, actually, we'll get to that in a second. Ooh, I went too far back, sorry. Let's get back, sorry. I had to back to all the way page button. Technical problems. Okay, I'll get to this. I'll show you exactly how to do this, but you put it up in the head area where you put the title. Okay, right under or above or anywhere in that area, that where you put title and meta, you put all the style stuff. It's another little tag, and you just specify it the same way that you would do internal. Now notice that it's nicely indented and easy to read. The bracket closes right here, so anytime you open a bracket, you have to close the bracket. Separated by semicolons. You can have the semicolon at the end. Same thing as with the inline, you can have the semicolon at the end or not. In this case, they don't. Sometimes you'll see it, sometimes you won't. Again, that's kind of a 50-50 shot. I've seen it both ways many times. I'm not going to harsh you for doing it either way. Just be consistent. So this gives me a, oh my gosh, a white text on black background. That's pretty hideous. After a while, you start looking at these what do you call them, the hex codes for the colors, and you starting to be able to see the colors, just recognizing them as real colors. And I'll get to that in a second. So this is another example. This is a little more explicit. So I'm saying the body is this E6 FA. So this is kind of a off grayish blue. Okay, the blue is a little heavier because it's F instead of E, which is F is later in the alphabet. So FA is a pretty high number. E6 is high, but not entirely high. So it's kind of grayish bluish. This is 1970. So this is the text color for the background is closer to a little bluish, dark bluish, because it's 1919, so it's pretty close to 0, and 70 is about midway through, so this gives a bit of black and bluish hint to the blue. And then we oftentimes will see this where you reuse the same color for different aspects of this. So the background color for the body is used for the text color for the header 1, and so on and so on. But notice how I can break this down in the style, and whenever you see the style in brackets like this, this is always embedded, okay? And we put this in the head, and then we go from there, okay? It's really not as confusing as it looks. The best thing to do is start playing with it, and which you will on your assignments quite a bit, okay? Let's pause there.